at 7:03.
Yes. We are live.
Okay. Call to order at 7:03. We have, it looks like, I can't count, 7 members present. Liz could not make it. Unfortunately, even though I sent 2 different emails, Susie did not receive a Zoom link.
I did not, but I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I used Patsy's.
Ah, okay, great.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on there, but okay, so Susie is here. So next up, did we all receive the minutes and review them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did anyone have any trouble with and unmute yourself if you're a commission member? Ileana, oh, do you have on your screen lower?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Sorry,
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have, Lisa, unmute yourself. Okay, Eric is unmuted, and there's a cord coming out of his head. Okay, were there any, my brain stopped working. Motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Wait, Eric did have something that
I had corrections that I had sent to you and to
Okay.
the other members.
I liked Eric's changes.
Motion to accept with corrections.
I'll second it.
I didn't understand the question about the self-guided tour, because that's how they're advertising it at Norwalk Historical Society. You had highlighted that, Eric?
Yeah, I hyphenated it because it needs to be hyphenated.
Oh,
okay.
hyphenated. Okay. Not that it was
It had
incorrect.
lost its hyphen, Lisa.
God forbid. Okay.
Hey, it's the little things. Okay, motion to accept the minutes as amended by Eric Chandler. Barry, yes. Okay, I'm gonna say yes. Lisa, do you? Oh,
I refuse, was not there.
all right, okay. Holly is recused, but I can't see everyone's hand at once, so that's Mark,
Mark's a
Lisa,
yes.
Ileana, Eric, Tom, and Barry. Okay, so that's, what do we call that? Unanimous.
No,
Okay.
it's got Holly's abstention.
Oh, yes, Holly's
Oh,
abstaining, yes.
Holly had to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
Jordan is in the,
Oh, yeah, where's Jordan?
he says he never got a link, but he's listening in and he wanted to know if someone can promote him to be a member.
Yeah,
He's on his way right now.
Okay.
I thought he was a member. I thought he was
He didn't get the
sworn in?
link. He was listening in.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
on now.
Hi, I think I'm in.
Is
Yeah.
Diana Gellert also a member?
Yes.
She is a speaker.
She's a speaker, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to promote her to panelist.
Oh, I love your hair, Dana. It looks so fun. The
What?
color.
See that?
Love it. Looks great. I had it turquoise for a long time and then I just had to cover it up, but I love the color.
Okay, so we have done the minutes. Next up is public participation. I don't think we have.
We do not have anyone, no.
Okay. Then come on, stupid. I don't want this computer's Hal's trying to take over. Go away. I don't care about Steve Bannon. Okay, so Diane, next to reports from Norwalk Historical Society, we have Diane Gellert.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. This will be a short report because things are actually going pretty well. Today was the first day that we had the museum open since almost a year. So it was great. It was freshly cleaned, new elevator. You have to come by. We're also doing timed entry so that you can get tickets online to come in at 12, 1, 2, or 3. We're still requiring masks at the moment, even though it's been lifted for inside. But for right now, for inside the museum or any of our buildings, we're still going to require masks, even if you're fully vaccinated, until we're feeling comfortable with that and moving forward. So that's new. Our Little Red Schoolhouse program for the 3rd grades, and I'm glad the 3rd graders are getting to experience it virtually. I actually heard from a few parents. They were excited, even though they hadn't seen it. Their kids were excited. So that's going pretty well. So I think most of the 3rd graders this year have had the opportunity to experience the Little Red Schoolhouse in the Fitch Law office. So that will be coming to a close in mid-June. We also right now, our big thing is working on a new exhibit for the Townhouse. So by the end of September, the Townhouse is going to look a little different. So we're putting up the new semi-permanent exhibits. So we're moving full steam ahead on getting that done over the summer in between everybody's vacations. So I'm excited, and you will be very pleased with what's going to be coming up in the Townhouse and the new exhibits. So what it's called is Norwalk Changing Communities Before 1835. So we're covering everything from the Ice Age to 1835, which is the age of the Townhouse. And then after that, we'll work on after 1835 in the museum. So after 1835 to the present. So that's where that's going to go, because we ran out of room. Believe it or not, we ran out of room in the Townhouse, even the 2,000 square foot room. And it's going to go around the perimeter of the Townhouse, not in the center, so we can still have events and meetings and all those good things will still happen. So it's all going to be around the perimeter. So we're really excited about doing that. I want to thank Lisa for doing her Nathan Hale presentation. It's great, your perseverance and bringing the Nathan Hale, the fountain to its final, hopefully resting place at Fodor Farm will be permanent. So thank you again for doing that. And we had lots of people who were on, and thank you for hanging in there. We know this didn't happen overnight, and a lot of things don't. That is worthwhile. So we're glad you could tell your story to different people, and we have it recorded. So if anybody wants to see it, it is out there on YouTube, on our Facebook channel. So go take a look and hear the story of bringing it in. And just going to give you a plug. So it's June 6th is the actual. I want to almost say christening for the fountain at Fodor Farms. So if you're interested, it's going to be like 1:30 in the afternoon. So that's where it's going to be done on June 6th. Anything else that you don't already know? One thing, we're having the virtual chat with Mary Woolley. So we're having a living history presentation next Thursday, June 3rd, 5:30. And Dr. Darla Shaw is going to be doing that presentation. She's done many presentations for us. She's really, really, really good at it. And Mary Woolley was born in South Norwalk, Connecticut, and she actually, she was the first female at Brown University. And she was a professor at Wellesley College, and then she was president at Mount Holyoke College, which is in Massachusetts, if you don't know. And Mount Holyoke College is still going strong. So she's going to cover that and give us some lively performance and give us some education about Mary Woolley. That's pretty much it for now. And I just let you know, we are going to do the 4th of July. We're going to do a bell ringing, but not with all the people. So
With the bell, I hope.
Yes. Yes, so we're still gonna still do that traditional bell ringing and do that. So maybe next year we can bring the crowds back into Mill Hill. But that's what we got going on. Any questions?
Thank you, Diane, for your nice words. And I showed you that after I saw that Mary Woolley was going to be featured, I was in the archives of the DAR and I found this letter from Mary E. Woolley. She was regret that she couldn't attend the 250th anniversary of the founding of Norwalk, but I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And coincidental that we just talked about that. It was like one of the first things I looked at. And it's, Mount Holyoke College is the letterhead, and it was written on August 23rd, 1901. So anyway, just
it was meant to be.
All right. So thank you, Diane, and look forward to these upcoming events. And next up is Susie from Lockwood Matthews Mansion. Susie
Hello,
Gellert.
everybody.
Hi.
Hello, Susan.
So I hope you all got to see the fence that the Connecticut DOT has installed. Thanks to David Westmoreland, the color is perfect, and they really look terrific. But going to our programs, we have a Young Writers Competition, which is ongoing. It started in February and will be completed in June, and we're getting submissions as we speak. We have two great new exhibitions, one of which was featured in the National Endowment for the Humanities magazine. It's called Health, Healing, and Addiction in 19th Century America, curated by Kathleen Benowitz and sponsored by Connecticut Humanities. The other one is called Socially Distant Art, Creativity in Lockdown, curated by Gail Inges. And this one was featured in the Arts and Leisure newspapers, 16 different newspapers in Connecticut. We're also offering to students 360 virtual tours of the house, and because right now they're not coming to the museum for tours. We're also offering a 360 virtual tour of the exhibition on medicine to high school students and nursing schools, and we've received several inquiries for the fall season. We have a speaker in July, Lynn, she's a curator and renowned scholar, Lynn Bassett, who will give a virtual talk titled Textiles of the Home Front, Civil War Stories. And I hope you'll all join us for that one. We are collaborating on a scavenger hunt, and which is on June 6th. We're collaborating with Stepping Stones, CCP, Cultural Alliance, and the new Norwalk Art Space. And we just had a great talk by Anastasia Healy, who wrote a book called Secret Connecticut. And we're working on our gala and the old-fashioned flea market in September and October. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions.
Sorry about I'm not sure how to work out this Zoom problem, but we found a way in, so.
Yes, I'm using Patsy's,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot for your.
Yeah, we do need to get that corrected.
Right.
It is frustrating. I'd like to report on the building piece.
Okay, yep.
In that it's moving forward. We did attend a planning commission meeting on May 12th in order to take the necessary steps with the city to comply with the A24 referral number 4-21 regulations, which is an oversight issue or process rather for constructions on city property. And everything was approved by the Planning Commission, and we're continue to move forward with our architects. The program and process is amazingly complicated. We've also reached out to a specialist in New York who is a preservationist and had consulted and worked with the Metropolitan Museum and with the Frick Museum. I don't think I mentioned this last month, but I'm not sure if I did. Did I? No. Okay.
I'm not sure.
We have hired him as a peer review process to look over the protection and advise us on the protection of the interiors of the building. As you all are aware, they're precious, they're outstanding. They're one of the finest, if not the finest examples of this artwork in the country. And so protecting them as we are under construction is vitally important. And I think you would be interested to know that we're dealing with that with much care. And we had another session with that earlier this week. We also have met last week with the state DECD and also the Preservation Office to go over preliminary plans of what we're doing on the building. And again, it's a fascinating experience that I've had in construction, and I'm hoping we can develop some kind of educational component for the industry, for people who would be interested in this kind of preservation. It's really outstanding. As you know, it's right now we're funded at a $7.5 million level. We are very realistic and realize that is not enough. So as we proceed with our dreams, we are going to be analyzing what's realistic and what's not realistic, and then being aggressive in any way possible to get additional funds to do additional work at the time. Because while we're physically out of the building for approximately 2 years, that's the time to take advantage of the ability to do work with the least amount of disruption for programming and the rest. Unfortunately, there was a newspaper article, I don't know any of you saw it, after the meeting with the Planning Commission on May 12th, the Norwalk Hour had a second page story about the museum closing for 2 years. They did not contact me for any additional comments other than what I made during the meeting. And it was, closed, mentioned to close. We're not closing our programming, our activity. We have to move out of the building. So we were not happy with the article, let me put it that way. So if any of you have people asking you questions, we are not canceling programs. We're aggressively looking to be as creative as possible to create our program, maintain our program, creating new ones that we can do at other venues. And many areas in the city have stepped up to offer possibilities to help us. So when you hear of anything like that, it would be very helpful if you would communicate it to us. We are actively looking for space. I had 2 conversations just today with potential spaces for us to move to. So again, that's another issue that if any of you have any ideas on that, we welcome all the help that you can give us. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody has. I'd be happy to try to answer them. No, everybody's silent. Okay.
Thank you, Patsy.
So, if there are no questions, I'm going to leave your meeting.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
again.
thank you.
Next up is reports. I think buildings is first. Yes. And that's usually David.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Couple things to report. The biggest thing I've been working on this week, which we just submitted to the Land Use Committee today, following up on Diane's presentation from the Historical Society regarding the Norwalk Changing Communities exhibit. Just for background, I'll just give a little background because we have so many new commissioners. The city of Norwalk, we own all these buildings. We have a series of public-private partnerships with our tenants. The Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum Incorporated, that's a tenant. The Norwalk Historical Societies, the Center for Contemporary Printmaking, Fairfield County Cultural Alliance. They, in exchange for basically no rent, $1 a year, $10 a year, whatever, they inhabit the buildings, and then they work with the Historical Commission in maintaining those buildings and keeping them open to the public. Through programs and the things that the nonprofits do. So we've had for many years, since the early 1900s, lease with the Norwalk Historical Society for Mill Hill Historic Park, the Townhouse, and the associated buildings, Governor Fitch, Little Red Schoolhouse, and so on. And then in 2013, you may remember the city used to operate a museum in South Norwalk at the old City Hall building. Now that building was not owned by the city. It was actually sold at some point by the city, and it was owned privately, and the Historical Commission paid rent. We paid like $12,000 a month in rent. And the city ran a museum. We had city employees working there. It didn't really work out that well for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into. But the city decided to close the museum in late 2011. And in 2013, the city then leased what was called the Lockwood House, not to be confused with the Lockwood Matthews Mansion, which is the red brick building on the City Hall campus that was originally built for the museum. The city owns that building outright. The Historical Society worked with the Historical Commission over a period of a couple of years and renovated that building completely. And then the Historical Commission entered into an outsourcing agreement with the Norwalk Historical Society to manage the city's collection of historical objects and artifacts, mostly decorative arts, furniture, paintings, really all kinds of stuff. So with that collection and the Norwalk Historical Society's collection, the Historical Society's been operating a museum there since the end of 2015. We think it's been very successful. And in fact, under this arrangement, not only do we have what we think is a better museum with much higher visitation than the old museum, much better programs, we're actually saving the city over a 10-year period ending in 2022, we're saving the city $1.9 million. So it's kind of the ideal arrangement in public-private partnership. The city's saving almost $2 million, and it's getting better programming, better exhibits, and so on out of the deal. So that's worked out well. The city, in all of the buildings that the city owns, the city is responsible for capital improvements and sort of long-term issues. The city also invests regularly in maintaining the city collection, the many objects that we own. We regularly do conservation work, that sort of thing, to maintain the paintings and many of the other objects in the collection. as a result of this, so 2 years ago in the capital budgeting process, the Historical Society asked for funds from the commission to help with a permanent exhibit at the Townhouse that covers, as Diane mentioned, the history of Norwalk from 10,000 BC to 1835. The society has raised $125,000 through private fundraising and through grants, mainly through Connecticut Humanities, to develop this exhibit. The exhibit is completely designed, it's completely written, all the scripts. A graphic designer was hired who is an amazing list of accomplishments. The JFK Library, the Children's Museum at the New York Historical Society, the Brooklyn Museum, the Cleveland Museum of Art, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really world-class exhibit. In the 21 capital budget, the city approved $84,000 to go towards the production of this exhibit. So the Historical Society has developed and designed the exhibit. The city will pay probably 80% of the production of the exhibit. The Historical Society is still kicking in another 30,000 or so for the production side. So that money was approved in 2021. So in order to spend that money, much like the Lockwood Matthews Mansion agreement, where the city's funding $2.5 million, the city needs to enter into a assistance agreement with the Norwalk Historical Society. So you'll see on the Land Use Committee, and hopefully if they approve it, the Common Council agenda the second week in June, an assistance agreement between the Historical Commission and the Historical Society for $84,000. The Historical Commission will approve all of the invoices, that sort of thing. We're very confident of the cost because the Historical Society has already bid all of the components out. We have 3 bids, at least 3 bids for each of the items. So it follows the city's purchasing processes and all of that stuff. So anyway, probably more than you wanted to know, but that's been kind of the big thing on the agenda. As Diane mentioned, the next plan is to follow on in the next several years with another permanent exhibit that will be at the museum that'll then tell the history of Norwalk from 1835 to present day. And it's kind of the approach that most historical societies take. There's a permanent exhibits for people to go to and then see the history. And then those are supplemented by, changing exhibits that the Historical Society will continue to do. Someday we believe that, and Patsy and I have been working and talking about a permanent exhibit for the Lockwood Matthews Mansion at some point too, that will tell the story of the mansion once all of these renovations are finished. And that's again something the Historical Commission will very likely support with funding. So there's no action to be taken on that, but I wanted to make all of you aware on the history and what that's about if it raises any questions. Because you never know.
David?
Yes.
David, has Alan seen the assistance agreement?
Yes, I sent him everything today at noon. He's already come back to me with a question on a typo issue.
Okay.
And Alan is the one who advised me that this is the best way to handle this is through an assistance agreement. So that's why we're taking that approach. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago about it.
Okay, great, thanks.
So the only other item, I have been working ridiculous amount of hours to get 2 utility poles moved from Smith Street and the fire hydrant moved 3 feet away so that it's not in the middle of the ADA sidewalk that we're trying to build in front of the barn and the jail. That contract was awarded by the council last month. The contract is now with the contractor, and hopefully they're going to sign it shortly, and work on finishing the exterior of the barn and the jail will finally be done after 5 years. But I got to get the stupid fire hydrant moved and the utility poles, and I'm fighting Eversource, Frontier, Altice, and the fire department at the same time. Anyway, it's just been a barrel of fun. This is the stuff that makes me insane and why I don't want to do this work. I don't mind working on the big projects. Let's renovate the mansion. Let's do all this. But first you have to move the utility poles, and you have to talk to 30 people to do that. So anyway, I think that's pretty much all I have. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
That's it. Oh, and I just to remind people that the townhouse and the schoolhouse were moved to Mill Hill, in case you didn't know that.
Yeah.
And next up on the, thank you, David. We'll see you again in a moment. Cemeteries. I added some Vanka to Brookside because there's some bare spots that I bought with, I guess, the t-shirt money. Those Pine Island t-shirts I have still loads of. Well, not loads, but anything else? Anyone else notice anything in the cemeteries? Yeah. Mark was wondering about the East Avenue one, but that's not really a problem, or is it? Problem with the Fitch Table Monument? Where's Mark?
Yeah, so I have my students doing they go off on an annual scavenger hunt, and I send them to East Norwalk Cemetery, the Cannon on the Green, and a couple other sites around town. And when they were showing me some of their pictures, I guess when that tornado went through last year and knocked the tree down by Fitz Jr.'s grave, I guess one of the branches must have broke a corner off of the father's grave, because I noticed the tabletop was damaged. So the corner, there is a corner missing on his tombstone. The clay part, not the actual tombstone itself.
Right. So that's the tabletop monument. Are we talking about the tabletop monument?
The tabletop, yeah.
Yes. Okay. And again, that's run by the third tax. What's the name of that taxing district?
Third.
Third?
Third? First. First taxing.
First taxing district.
No, it's the third taxing district.
Third.
I thought it was first. Third first.
It's
Who's on first?
Water.
I don't know.
I think first is water. But anyway.
They need to fix that. That's a really, not only is obviously the Fitch grave important, but that's a really rare and unique, that's the only tabletop tomb of that style in Norwalk. It's very unusual, and they need to take care of that, and they need to get qualified conservators.
Right.
I don't know how we talk to them. I mean, the problem is whenever you broach any of the taxing districts, they're offended. It's our business, blah, blah, blah. So, except for the second taxing district, of course, because I'm very approachable. Since
I was going to say, David.
But we need to get them to fix that. That's really needs to be done. It's really important. So.
Yeah, maybe I could talk to Chris Burr. I mean, he's a governor of Connecticut before it was part of the U.S. So.
Yeah, you should. I mean, that's the way you should go in, because you go into the commissioners, you might be offended, and I don't think most of them know as much. They're all fairly new, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you could talk to Chris, that would be great.
Okay, so that's cemeteries, and now we're on to, I think, financial. Is that what we're up to? I don't have this printed out, so. Yeah, financial.
We still have money. We're still spending it. It's trying to get everything done in the fiscal year for the city ends June 30th. So we have probably $15,000 left in professional services. I think everything else is generally spent. So we're doing a few things, repairs and things, to spend that down and make sure we're caught up. And whatever's left goes back to the taxpayers, and that's good too. So.
Just curious about the sword in the corner there. No, just kidding. Never mind. Oh. No messing around.
Civil War Navy Union of
Cool. Nice. Okay, so number 6, do we have any old business? I don't think so. In that case, we're ready to move on to our talk with Steve Kleppen. If I'm pronouncing that right, I hope.
Yep, that was good. Thank you.
Okay.
And I won't do too much talking. I'm going to let Laura Kenny introduce herself and do the talking. I know many of you, talked to some of you before. Obviously, my name's Steve Kleppen. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director of the city. I'm sorry, just a big thunderstorm's coming through as we speak. It's booming in the background. But it's good that we got together. This has been on my to-do list for a long time. As you may know, that the city's gone through a lot of staff turnover in the last 12 months or so. On my end, we had 4 staff members leave with probably a combined 120 years of service to the city, which was a short-term scary moment, but in the long term, I think it'll be a good benefit to the city. We brought in some really great new staff, including Laura. And one of the things that we wanted to work on was have a closer relationship with your commission on initiatives and things, that maybe you haven't thought about before or haven't thought you had the ability or staff resources to handle. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at Norwalk citywide plan, and if you don't have that, I can always send out a link. There are several sections in that plan that reference items that are kind of, related to the Historic Commission and things you can do and things that, you might want to think about doing. I have things that, we put forward last year. There was a TOD plan approved for East Norwalk. And one of the recommendations in there was establishing historic districts in a couple of locations. So that would be something to talk about further. The Zoning Commission has been, I think, fairly progressive in some of their regulation rewrites as it relates to historic structures and historic properties. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that process and how we can, work together on that, with the idea being, kind of in a nutshell, if the property owner / applicant agrees to preserve the historic structure, that will give them bonuses or be nicer to them on things like setbacks or parking or those kind of things. So the idea is they save the building, but then they get some monetary gain by redeveloping their property in a different manner. And you've seen some of the projects come to fruition. There's the one on 3 Elmcrest, I believe. There was another one recently approved on Elmcrest. One just approved on East Wall, and then one also approved on Flax Hill. I don't know if they started construction on that one yet or not, but those are kind of the big areas. And I'm going to introduce Laura. If some of you didn't get to meet her before the meeting started, Laura, I'll let her do most of the talking, but she's been with the city for about 6 weeks now, came to us from New York City planning. So we're really lucky to have her. She's the new senior planner, is kind of the jack of all trades, who I think will work on a lot of fun projects, including working with you guys. So with that, I'll turn it over to Laura. She's got a brief presentation, and we're happy to take questions or discuss anything you'd like to chat about.
Thanks, Steve. Hey, everybody. As Steve said, I'm Laura. I recently started working in Norwalk. I'm excited to work with the Historical Commission. Before I worked for New York City, I got to do a bit of a historic preservation project in Santorini, Greece. If some of you might be aware, pretty much all the buildings in Santorini have historic rainwater collection cisterns underneath them. And so my interests in grad school were water resources. And so we worked with Santorini to develop a tourism plan that highlighted water resources and also the historic architecture there. So that sort of started my my interest in historic planning. And then my time in New York, I saw what big changeovers were happening in the city, and my family has a pretty long history in Brooklyn. And so I was disappointed on a personal level to see those neighborhoods changing. But then I also thought it was really a missed opportunity to create a sense of place and kind of distinguish New York from all the other cities. So I hope that I can kind of play a role in Norwalk in keeping the sense of place and helping preserve some of your great history. I have a quick presentation for you. This may be very obvious to a lot of you, but it was a good learning opportunity for me to kind of know exactly what you do and the role of the Historical Commission in Norwalk. So I'm just going to pull that up and go through it, and we can hopefully talk about it afterwards. Okay. I'm just going to try to get this in. Okay, great. There we go. So the purpose of the commission, its intent is to safeguard the heritage of Norwalk by preserving elements of its historic, cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural history, promote the use of historic sites for education, welfare, pleasure of the citizens of Norwalk. Powers and duties. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Powers and duties. Subject to the approval of the Common Council, you will designate sites or buildings owned by or acquired by the city, historic land sites. You can also recommend sites that should be acquired or relinquished. You're also charged with the control, development, management, operation, improvement, and maintenance of these sites, and to carry out programs designed to educate the public. So you have a lot on your plate here. Sorry about this. Oh, it looks like my screen share just stopped. So
It looks like you X'd it out here, Laura, by accident.
sorry, everybody. I'm used to Microsoft Teams, and so this is a little bit. I'm not great at this. Okay. Great. Okay. So a big part of what I was hoping to work with you on and what I needed to learn about was some of the tasks that you've been assigned in the citywide plan. And so this slide has a lot of text. They all do, but that's, I guess, what happens when you get into the nitty-gritty. Talking about some of the roles that you can play in the next few years. So, you know, just some examples that I came across that seemed high priority were, and please let me know if you're working on any of these or if you've already accomplished any of them. So some of the things I thought that were pretty important was developing a preservation checklist for city boards and commissions when they're reviewing development proposals. Another item that seemed pretty important was becoming a certified lead local government. And that relates to the general idea of applying for different preservation grants to help support a lot of your work. You know, there's a lot on here. So there's also encouraging the plaque program, you know, working with property owners of historic buildings. So there are a lot of options here, and kind of as to the commission of how you guys would like to proceed. Another item that came up was the importance of historic designation within Norwalk, since that is within the powers of the commission to propose. I just want to kind of outline the value that that has. Steve mentioned this a bit. They're sort of I don't know, more wiggle room for buildings that are designated as historic within Norwalk and within zoning. So these are just kind of a few examples of, you know, buildings that are designated might not have to follow certain setback rules in certain districts, or change to follow zoning because they've already been designated, and that value kind of overrides any zoning regulations. And so I just wanted to flag that for everyone here, in case you weren't aware of that, because I think it can help preserve buildings without necessarily having to put a ton of city money into them. It kind of de facto preserves them. Another item then I thought we should touch on is the Historical Commission's direct role in application review. So along with your acts of designating sites, protecting them from different zoning actions or redevelopment, there are times when the Zoning Commission will be called on to review projects. So in these districts listed here, the Zoning Commission can outline a request for the Historical Commission to take a look at. So you might have received some of those and might do them regularly, but these are the scenarios when that can happen and you'll be called on to do that. As Steve was mentioning, there's also the East Norwalk TOD plan that the Commission can play a role in. A big part of the public engagement feedback for the plan talked about how people really value the small coastal ambiance of that area, and how, you know, how we can bring that to light even more with the plan. And so in reviewing your powers and duties, I came up with some ideas of the way the Historical Commission could help the goals of the TOD plan. So there's a bullet list here talking about maybe targeting properties or structures within that area for historic designation, or provide signage so people understand the place that they're in and the history of it. Historically significant view sheds could be important in this area too, to designate. And then of course, encouraging the rehab or preservation of existing exteriors to continue adding to that sense of place. And so next steps I have for all of us, I was hoping, you know, after you've had a chance to review this PowerPoint, I can send it out to everyone. We could decide some items that you'd like to act on, and maybe consider making committees or subcommittees within the commission to work on the items that you've determined we should prioritize. And that's what I have.
So Laurel, you will send it out to everybody, this presentation?
Yeah, I can email it after this meeting.
I think that'd be helpful, thanks.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I think it was your third slide, the one with the multi-columns, that one.
Yeah.
One of the things it says is designated staff person from the Planning and Zoning Department to act as staff and liaison to the Historical Commission. Now, we've rarely had a zoning presence at our Historical Commission meetings. Does this mean that the Planning and Zoning Committee will be providing a liaison to report to the commission on a monthly basis? Or not?
Yeah, that's kind of what I think Laura will be doing. So I think in addition to the tasks that are outlined on the slide you have up on the screen now, is, you know, if there's other areas you think could be assistance. I mean, just typically, you know, just give you a sense of the workload that we have. So planning and zoning, there are, let me see, we have the Planning Commission, the Zoning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals. We also facilitate Bike Walk, Conservation Commission. And then, you know, I'm I'm at Planning Committee of Common Council quite a bit. So we have numerous committees and commissions, and also harbor management as well. So we have numerous commissions and boards that we facilitate. And so I think that, the idea is Laura will be kind of your staff contact. What that all entails on a daily basis is, I think, probably something we need to discuss and kind of lay a roadmap out. I think the tasks you see up here are some of the things that are kind of in our wheelhouse per se, but and as well as the preservation items that are in front of the zoning commission. But I'm happy to discuss anything else you had in mind.
Well, one of the things I think that just came up today in an email from Dana that might tie into this whole greater connectivity between zoning and the commission is the house. Dana, you sent photographs where they had filed a demolition delay or a demolition request. We never saw the request, and they just started doing the work. And so if that's the kind of thing, if there's greater connection on a regular basis between zoning and the commission, that lack of oversight might have been prevented. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, we get referred on those demolition delay, but that's through the building department. That's not my staff per se.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, we get, and I know the property you're aware of because I know that the zoning commission approved a special permit for that property, and unfortunately, it looks like they went beyond their scope of work. So I know the building department's working with Corporation Counsel's office now on what the next steps are, and if there's any issues that come out of that.
Okay, thank you.
Just to update people, that's 96 East Avenue, and it said it was a partial demolition of the rear of the building, which obviously isn't what's happening. And continue.
So I'd like to,
yeah.
I'd like to comment or ask some questions, following up on Eric's questions. My understanding of the line in the POCD about designating a staff person for the Planning and Zoning Department to act as staff and liaison to the Historical Commission, that was not intended to have a narrow definition of only dealing with planning and zoning issues, but to be the staff person for the city, for the Historical Commission. That person would be like the other commissions that you deal with, Steve. Your staff does the agendas, make sure the Zoom invites gets out, all of the stuff associated with running a commission, which is a lot of administrative work. We're all volunteers doing
but we're worth it.
And well, it's kind of a burden. And so for instance, on this particular issue with whatever it was, 90 something East Avenue, that would be a matter of the staff person, assumedly Laura, working with the building department and saying, Bill, why aren't we getting the notices? Where was the notice on this? That sort of thing, but really dealing with the issues for the Historical Commission that involve all the city, not just planning and zoning issues. That was my understanding of why that was put in there. And so I think we might want to have some further discussion if that is a different understanding than you have, Steve. But my understanding is that this is to be the staff person for the city, for the commission, not just your department issues.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And typically, like I said, for all those boards that you mentioned, we do all of the, we don't take the minutes. So I don't know if you have Telesco or some other service that you utilize for that, but we,
Telesco does, yeah.
Yeah. So we handle the posting of the agendas, the minutes, and that's part and parcel of the, I guess I would see as the role of that as well. I don't know. And maybe it's just, I think it's some ignorance on my part. I don't know all the specific tasks and items that you take on as a commission. In terms of where I'm thinking, like the the bulk of Laura's work would be with you, would be a lot of these projects that you have here. So some of the projects, I don't know if, we'd have to talk about specific items, that maybe you're working on that I don't know if that would necessarily come from my department.
Well, yeah, and I'm not, the buildings are a whole different issue, and that's a matter of something I'm going to work on next year to get a quote from I think it's Guardian, the company that the city outsources building maintenance to. We've been working with them on the museum because they serve the museum. We have a good working relationship, but it's time that they take over and add to their contract the rest of our buildings, because it really is a lot for volunteers to do. I think that the Historical Commission will always play a strong role in capital projects, defining what those are and the improvements we want, and working on the budget and support for that. I don't see that specifically as that's a different ball of wax, that really belongs in facilities. But I think it's the administrative stuff and all this stuff on this slide, which I think is really good, by the way. So thank you for pulling all that out. My other request would be that perhaps you and Laura and myself and Dana and any other commissioners that are interested, we could get together soon and talk about some of these issues and maybe prioritize. I'm aware of some issues that may drive the priority of some of these sooner rather than later that I'm very concerned about. And there's in particular, without going into a lot of detail, there is a big issue with the second panel, get the Chapter 56, which gives the Historical Commission the role of granting of certificates of appropriateness in local historic districts. It's been believed for the last 20 years or so that we don't have any local historic districts, but I have confirmed with the State Historic Preservation Office that we do have a local historic district, and that's the Town Green. And none of the work that's gone on in the Town Green, none of the work in the buildings around that are in that historic district should be, those are required by our charter. They should all be becoming before the commission for certificates of appropriateness, and the city's never implemented that. It was a lawsuit largely driven, I believe, by the first taxing district that involved one of the condos on Parks Street to try to subvert that, and they won the lawsuit, but it didn't affect the local historic district designation for the city. It was about fractional voting in a condo, but it was something that was used to subvert the implementation of this, and we need to get it implemented, and we need to do that because we can't be a certified local government through the state and available for all those preservation grants unless we have an active local historic district, and we need to implement that. And that's going to be, there's going to be some fireworks involved in that. But we have every legal right to, and the State Historic Preservation Office is 100% behind us. But that's something we need to move forward. You mentioned viewshed identification, Laura. I'm very concerned that there's proposed development being planned for the O&G site behind Mill Hill on Smith Street that will directly block the historic view that has been the historic view of Norwalk since its founding in 1651, of being able to see the river and look up the river at the back of Mill Hill. And any development of apartments on the old asphalt plant in that whole area would block the view. And we have to figure out how we can protect that ASAP, because I keep hearing that land may have already been purchased by a developer, and developments are being planned. So I want to see if we can get ahead of that. So I don't know, Dana and Steve, how you'd like to move this forward, but I certainly, I do have some knowledge. I'm not trying to dominate here, but I'd like to help us figure out the priorities and move these things forward.
Yeah, we can we can, just keep in mind if whomever on your side wants to meet, just if you're gonna have a quorum, then we'd have to notice it as a meeting. Otherwise, I mean, we're happy, we can have a meeting in our conference room if you're comfortable meeting in person, Zoom, however you want to proceed.
Well, I'm the free volunteer staff of the commission since I'm not on the commission anymore, so I don't count.
Oh.
So it can be Dana and one other person, and it's not a meeting, and me, and it's not a meeting. So
I think I might be able to do that.
that'd be
Okay.
terrific.
Great, Eric.
But this is all really good, Laura. We're excited to have you. I'm excited to have you. I know Dana will be thrilled if she doesn't have to deal with posting another agenda. It sounds like a simple thing, but when you're a volunteer and you're not at City Hall, it's a real pain. And you know what?
I can tell you, being a city employee and having these posted all the time, it's a pain in the butt for us too, trust me.
Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, I guess there's so many moving parts that we have to be aware of, and buildings come down. It's almost like we can't keep up with it. So pointing out these other little tools we have, or weapons almost, can help us get our point across. Another question was, is there any sort of fines for people that don't follow the rules, Steve?
Which rules, any specifically?
Well, I mean, is there a rule? I mean, if someone just does whatever they want instead of posting that they're demolishing, or they just do whatever they want, is there any sort of punishment for them financially?
Yeah, I think that tool is available. You know, I was just thinking, if we do set up a meeting, I'll see if I can invite Bill Ireland to sit in, because he's, you know, that all comes through the building code. So he'd be more versed in that than myself.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It really, Bill and his staff were really good for years about making sure we always got demo notices, and I don't know if the staff has changed or what, but it's been real spotty the last 2-3 years. But for many years, it was really great. We always got noticed.
Yeah, the other question is, like what's happening on Roten Avenue, for example, is that I think I sent out pictures to everyone last week. Is that a renovation? Is that a demolition? Is that a demolition in disguise as a renovation? Not that that's a really historic building, but it is over 50 years old and sets a precedent.
So Dana, we asked Bill Ireland to go take a look at that,
Right.
and I haven't heard back on what they found, because I know the neighbors were not happy about it.
Right. And it just doesn't seem safe what they're doing. It seems like they put up their own tripod for the utilities. It's just kind of all.
Yeah, he was out. I mean, I believe he was out there last week, if not
Yeah.
before that, yeah.
Yeah, the neighbor did say that someone had been out, but it looks like work is still continuing on that. But yeah, it's more of a dismantling than a renovation. And we have seen that over the years, accidentally dismantling a house till there's nothing left to save.
Well, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but the theory, at least of the neighbor has done building before, is he's just trying to get around the zoning on that one, do wall by wall.
Yep. What else? There's also something going on in Flax Hill that looks like just a very slow moving renovation. But anyone else have anything in mind they've seen around town that bothers them?
I know they finally demoed the house on Strawberry Hill,
Right.
the one that burnt down.
Yeah, I saw how bad, from another angle, how bad it was once the roof went. And I guess there wasn't much that can be done. But again, we keep sacrificing things, but it's not like Norwalk has a lot of deep pockets to save everything.
Same
we
with the
also-
house in Silver Mine, the one that you mentioned earlier on Perry Avenue on the continuation. They're still working on it.
Which one is that?
The house across from the taverns on the river. There was a house that you sent in a message about that they were, it was in the registry.
Oh.
And they were gutting, and yeah, they're just at it. And I drive by it almost every other day, and they're just working on it, taking a lot out of it.
Oh, you mean on Old Kings Highway?
Old Kings Highway, yeah, sorry, it's a
Okay.
continuation of Perry. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of our special constructors, I'll say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, that needs to be looked into. Okay, One Old Kings Highway. So it's hard for, yeah, we're all volunteers and just keep track of every historical property in town is tough.
Do we know what's going to happen to the old Victorian that's on the YMCA property?
That seems to be a stalled thing right now. That was due to come down.
The whole project stalled.
Yeah. It is an attractive building, and David, I know, went on somehow I missed the interior tour. Lisa, did you go on the interior tour of?
Yeah, I did. I went
Okay.
on that. I mean, I don't know, Norwalk Hospital still owns that, and are they still wanting to proceed with that plan? I haven't heard anything about it for a while.
They've been radio silent on the whole site.
Excuse me, I heard that they weren't interested in building.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And then the city owns that historic house on Philo Street
Oh, right.
where the
Yeah.
mosque was. I mean, what's going on with that? I mean, I drive by and the windows are just boarded up.
We talk about that from time to time in land use about selling it. It's a complicated situation because of the shape of the lot. It would need to be rezoned. I think in part there's the question is what you could do with it because because of the configuration, and it's always sort of been kept in the background as sort of possible land for swap for park purposes, but it's something we look at every year or so, but nothing's happening there now.
Just to be annoying, I will state that it's an architecturally interesting house. I do not consider it to be a particularly historic house at all.
Right.
It's hodgepodge. It was added onto over the years, and it's cute. And I'm not advocating tearing it down or anything, but sometimes the commission needs to focus on what's really historic and what's not really historic, versus things we just like. It's just, and I'm not telling that I would fight either way on this one, but it's important to really, as things come before you, to say, is this really historic? Should this really be under our jurisdiction? Or is it just something we like, because they're really two different things. But some people do consider that house historic, so I'm not making the argument. But
Yeah, historic versus architecturally significant, and it is leaning towards the cute.
It's
the tower.
architecturally interesting. I wouldn't say it's architecturally significant.
Right. That's what the difference is, and this is sort of a subcategory.
Right.
With the flared roof on the tower and.
Right.
But.
I mean, I know I was looking at some of the stuff that Laura had presented in her slideshow about, historic village. Maybe after this is just an idea. Maybe after the walk bridge is completed, where they found the Native American fort, could we build some kind of permanent exhibit that would showcase the history of that Native American presence in that particular area? since they're going to be tearing down all that stuff in Goldstein Place. Anyways, they've already done some of it. The marina is going to be leveled. So that whole area will be cleared out. It might be a nice place to do some kind of historic exhibit that could even tie in with the Maritime Center. Just a thought.
Yeah, with everything that was gathered from the site, I think that was going to be on display somewhere else. There probably would be a plaque there, because thing about archaeology is you dig it up and there's not, it's not like there was anything structural wise left to present to anyone.
So we've talked about that, and I like the idea. The DOT is not terribly forthcoming, and we're not even sure what's going to be left and what will be sold off for development. At a minimum, really over where the fort site is, the Norwalk River Valley Trail is going to pass through. And at a minimum, they've agreed to do interpretive signage like we've done at Mill Hill and the cemeteries, and we're about to do it at Matthews Park. And then also, one of the things I wanted to do was to do like a cobblestone outline of the palisade wall, so that when you're going past, you can see all that stuff and you can explain it. And as far as the artifacts go, I'm actually in a big kind of fight. They've kept us in the dark the last 2 years. And it's coming to a head, or I'm trying to make it come to a head right now. The tribes stopped all the archaeological work at the dig site 2 years ago. And there is actually a little bit more that they're supposed to do before they do the work. And the tribe stopped it. And it's because they got in this big fight with the state over whether MGM could build a casino in Bridgeport. So they said, well, you're just not going to do anything in Norwalk or anywhere else. So the archaeologists haven't been allowed back to work on the site. We've also, so for this exhibit that the Historical Society is working on, an important part of it is the fort site, and we're covering the fort site with or without them. But eventually we want to get artifacts for that exhibit, a small number. But in the meantime, we've asked them for photographs of some of the artifacts that we could do on a PowerPoint on a screen in the exhibit in the time being. And I can't even get an answer on that. So I've escalated that to Bob Duff and the mayor, and I think the mayor is getting the lieutenant governor involved, and the DOT has not responded. They were supposed to have a big meeting last Friday, and I'm like, okay, so what was your meeting? No response, no response. I will say what they did tell me is that they did get the New York tribes involved in consulting on this, which tells me that one of the findings, which, they haven't released any findings and they won't tell us anything, but I believe that if they got the New York tribes involved, that means that they've determined that the Norwalk Indians were part of the Mannahatta tribes. They were part of the Lenapes and not part of the Pequots. We've always believed that the boundary was the Saugatuck River at the end of the Pequot Empire. And that's one of the big mysteries we're hoping to find out about that. But I think they've just told us that by telling us that because the New York tribes are involved. And that, but I don't know why all the mystery. I don't understand the politics of the tribes. We're just trying to report the story. And it's very frustrating, but we're pushing and pushing on it. Because they were supposed to be releasing their final reports 2 years later. It's 2 years. It's been 4 years since they found anything. We don't know anything, and they won't even talk to us. So it's very frustrating, but we're pushing very hard on it and trying to bring it to a head. So.
Thanks, David. I know they did show us some goodies on that tour. They let us have whenever that was, a few years ago. So, I mean, I might even snap some pictures of those things.
I actually took a couple of videos. I went on 2 tours. I was only supposed to go on 1, but I went on 2. And I stitched them together. And I have some photographs of what they did find. And I had a bracelet made, this one, of the exact, not from there, but someone in Nantucket, an Indian, made me one the same measurement of what they found at the Norwalk site.
Wampum.
I have, you know, the little I have, I would be happy to share.
That would be terrific. Do your videos show them digging, working on the site?
No, it's basically the presentation that he did, but each time he did it twice, it was a different story. It was a little bit different. So we got a little bit more information about.
I have some pictures from when I went on the tour too.
So can I get all your pictures and your videos?
Sure.
And probably Todd has some as well.
Because like I said, it's like, I don't care what they say. We have our own stuff and we're going to present it. And if they want to sue us, go ahead. But you know, the whole thing is just stupid.
Yeah, nobody took videos. Everyone was a little shy because, you know, they were, you know, but I kind of got in there and did it anyway.
David, do you know if Sarah Sportsman is the new state archaeologist? Is that who it is?
So she is, and I went round and round with her for a month before she finally said, well, I don't really have any jurisdiction over this, so it's not up to me. You need to talk to the DOT. I'm like, great, I just wasted that month. So then I went to the DOT, and the DOT is like, well, you know, we got this issue resolved and it's moving forward, and there's some other person that we're meeting with, and you know, and then I followed up and I said, so how is the meeting? What's the result? And no response. So, you know, I'm going to have Bob and the mayor try to put pressure on, because this is just stupid.
I mean, weren't they
pictures of the art? We don't even want the artifacts. Just give us some pictures. You know?
Right. It's been pretty quiet and I haven't heard anything. I'm actually having lunch with Nick Bellantoni next month, but I don't know if he can offer any help.
You know,
they were supposed to present to us. Make a presentation,
absolutely.
whether it's through the Archaeology Club in Norwalk or at City Hall. They've done nothing.
Yeah, and I think part of it was the issue with the tribes, but he said that issue was settled now. So I don't know what the problem is. And, you know, because the governor signed some things, said that if there's a casino built in Bridgeport, it can be built by the Pequot tribe. So great, everybody's happy. I don't care about casinos. I care about the Norwalk Fort site. Anyway, it's just.
And no further discussion on if Norwalk's going to get some of those artifacts?
We will get.
Still the DOT, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the only, you know, what's going to happen to them is they're going to go into the storage facility at stores.
Rosebud.
No one sees them, so why wouldn't we get them?
Right.
I mean, it's the whole thing makes no sense at all. We will get the artifacts that we want eventually. I just don't know how many years it's going to take.
It's because if they let us have them, they won't have them anymore, even if
so that no one can see them. I don't get it.
So we kind of went away from building there for a bit, but that's. Do we have any more questions or about how the historical commission should be, what we should be worried about, or what our job is with zoning and etc., building and planning? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, I think having Laura will be a great asset.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some of the questions that I had, and I think some of the new commissioners, is that I guess Steve mentioned it a little bit, that there are concessions that we have to make when preserving some of our historic buildings. And that may mean adding a few extra apartments, because that you have to generate funding to be able to maintain that historic building. But sometimes they'll come in and they'll ask for a change in the code or the regulations. And as Steve mentioned, to get bonuses, you know, whether it's more parking or something like that. but they should really be coming in and approaching us with the regulation as written and then how they want to change to make sure that they're not changing something we don't know about, So having a list of that, and Ileana said she would compile something in the site or a book that each commissioner could have, so they have it as a resource, like your PowerPoint and, some of the regulations. If you could do something like that, I think you guys, what do you think, Ileana? It'd be good to have that material in front of
Totally.
you. And,
Yeah,
Barry,
I think
right?
we shared it for feedback and a few of you looked at it, but if everybody can just go back and find that email and just really take a look, and then we can incorporate Laura's presentation. I was drooling where I saw it. I was like, this is exactly what I needed to see when I joined. So thank you. If you could share that with us, that would be brilliant.
So basically what we're talking about is something that could be titled, "So you've decided to join the Historic Commission. Here's what you're in for."
Exactly. And this is who we are. Exactly. A friendly, simple user guide that just helps us navigate and just, stop annoying Dana with questions every 5 seconds.
Right,
Yeah, I think that'd be useful. Yep.
On the point of the amendments and then folks doing the preservation bonuses, it would be good if, and I've talked to a couple of the applicants that you've seen over the last couple of months, that the referral really should come. Sorry, I'm getting dark here on my screen. The referral should come from the zoning commission itself. And if they approach you directly, you should probably say, no, we're going to pass on looking at this until it comes from that. One of the advantages for you would be that we could prepare a memo. We do so when we have an application in front of the commissions, we always do a staff memo for every application and just try to make things in a concise. And for me, I like to do a bulleted format, so it's clear. Here's what you're looking at. Here's the big issues. Here's what we have a problem with and what we're working on. So we could do something very similar for you guys when you see some of these applications or any changes to the regulations that have interaction with the work that you're doing. But it would be good if it came from us, because then we can help frame the conversation a little bit. I would be, while everybody I think has good intentions, if someone comes in with strictly telling you what they want, you may not be aware of some of the issues that we're having with it. So we'd rather have it, maybe help us frame the conversation a little bit.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess our other concern is going from the 120-day delay to 180 days. Or as I wrote it, from 120 to 120, which is a typo, but I just noticed. So that's something we'd like to have on the books for a little more power. That's not the right word, but.
Well, so Dana, as I mentioned last meeting, I mean, that would have to go through ordinance.
Okay, ordinance
committee. But what we're going to need to see is what other municipalities are doing,
right?
And to come forth with a rationale. And Steve, I'd be curious as to your thoughts on this as well.
Oh, on extending the delay?
Yeah,
I think your idea of that's something that we can help you with is doing research on practices other municipalities have. That's pretty simple stuff for us to do, and we can compile a spreadsheet or whatever format's easier for you to digest.
Right. Yeah, I did look around at other websites. It's probably easier for you, Steve, to call these towns. Some of these towns might not realize what they're in for when all these influx of city people move in and want to change things. But most towns around us are 90 days. I forget what Westport has, but we are pretty good time-wise, but we'd like to have a little more time for that delay period. So the ordinance committee.
Yeah, get the information and I'll bring it to ordinance.
Okay.
But they're going to want to have a discussion, so we'll need that first.
Yep.
Yeah, 180 days really puts a builder's plans into a whole nother season or another so that's a little bit more of a effect if we want to delay it for other reasons.
Right.
I think one of the things, I'm speaking for myself as a member of the ordinance committee, I would want to know, I mean, what's the universe of properties we're talking about? Is it a lot of properties? Is it a handful? I mean, how many do you think we're protecting? I mean, you don't have to answer that now, but it's just something I think is relevant.
How many? Well, there's how many properties are on our historic resource inventory, and how many should be on the list. Those are a couple things that need to be lined up together, because a lot of times we don't realize something's special until the wrecking ball shows up. I know they don't use wrecking balls anymore, but it sounds good. Yeah, so that's something we need to kind of know what, and we're just losing them a lot of times for vanity reasons. Someone wants to build their dream house, and it's not very handsome to, I guess we're sort of history snobs here, so we like what we like. But yeah, so what is our inventory of historic, or not necessarily older houses by architectural or actually historical for whoever lived there?
Well, Dana, we can talk about,
Right.
Your presentation, because I think there are a bunch of things that we can address, and you can come to the committee and make your case.
Yeah.
So what's important also to show them is a history of how many times in like the last 5 or 10 years that the Historical Commission has actually invoked the delay ordinance, because there's a huge number of properties that we could invoke the delay ordinance on, and that's the kind of thing that the ordinance committee members will obsess over, is like, oh my God, you could stop every property. But the reality is, a busy year is if we do one, and it's rarely more than one a year, if even that. So I think it's important to come with, here's the track record for the last 10 years. Having the 180 days, as Lisa said, it's a big stick, and it really changes the economic outlook for developers. A lot more time, and where it's more useful not in invoking it, it's just useful having it, because we can threaten to invoke it, and then we can get them to negotiate either modifications, documentation, a lot of other things, without ever having to actually invoke the delay. It's important to have that big stick. And if you look at the track record, the Historical Commission has been very judicious in actually using it. But it's important to have it to be the 6 months, because it's a much bigger stick. They can wait 3 or 4 months. It doesn't, it takes that long just to get a freaking permit. But 6 months, like Lisa said, it could put you into a different economic cycle. And that's, if we can say, well, okay, if you'll modify this and this and this, we'll not invoke the delay, and you can go ahead, and start your project next month. That's where it's really important. And somehow you have to convey that to the ordinance committee, because otherwise they'll be worried, oh my gosh, we're going to stop every single, project to replace siding in Norwalk or something.
Yep. Yeah, we're not against progress. We would just like to see things done thoughtfully, I guess.
Right, and again, and only on those properties that are truly historic.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered a lot tonight, and we might be running out of gas, so to speak. Do we all feel like we've had enough answers for our questions tonight? Everybody?
Yes, I just asked if Laura, when she sends the PowerPoint, will you have your contact information on there? Phone number, email address?
Yeah, I'll probably send it from my work email tomorrow morning, And I'll make sure to, so you'll have my email address, and then I'll make sure to include my phone number as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Thanks, Steve and Laura. I think we've covered everything on our agenda.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else? And Ileana, and okay, so we're agreeing to adjourn at 8:33 p.m.
You have to vote.
Oh, sorry. All in favor of adjourning? All
Okay,
right.
I want to stay on for another hour.
Okay, you can stay on.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks again, man. You're doing a tremendous amount of stuff.
Yes. Thanks all.